Conquer the Noise is a podcast produced by Unconquered, an independent agency challenging brand perspective to redefine content. This podcast is dedicated to telling stories of outstanding ideas and people who have found their way amongst the chatter. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jonathan Hansen, your host of Conquer the Noise. Today, we're speaking with Stephanie Dipisa, who's the founder of Solara Suncare. In this episode, we talk about her founding story and how a series of life events inspired her to start the Suncare brand. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming on today's show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Solara Suncare, it's a clean, non-toxic sunscreen. I would love for you to tell me a little about the brand and how you came to the start of it.
Of course. So we are a new brand. We are about a year and a half old, almost 2 years old. And we exist entirely around bringing to the market safer, healthier, better for our skin and the environment, skin protection products that also double as skincare. So it's not just your beach and sport options, but it's for every day as well. And I came up with the idea of Solara Suncare several years back, actually to solve a need for my own family. I have 3 children, and 2 of them have allergies to the chemicals in sunscreens. They get itchy and rashy and red bumps. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized they are definitely not the only ones. And the reason for that is that it builds up in your body over time. So when you're reapplying, as you should be, for some people, that is incredibly irritating to their skin. And so that really left me with one option, zinc oxide. And 4 years ago, that option was sticky and white and like toothpaste. So as a mom on a mission, I didn't want that unpleasant experience for my family. And I thought there had to be a better way. So that's really what got me started in looking into trying to figure out how to do this better. And on that journey, I also was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And that's really where the Solara story shifts a little bit from just creating a sunscreen for my children to really recognizing that what you put in your body and what you put on your body, it matters a lot. And the toxic load that your body carries from products that you use every day is a real thing. And so in looking at sunscreen, it tended to be the worst offender, I'll call it, the lowest common denominator of ingredients. Ingredients that are known endocrine disruptors and skin irritants. And so it was really that realization that I recognized, wow, well, what we're doing here on my healing journey, which is using incredible science and nature, things like adaptogens that are meant for immunity and defense, really have that same special effect with your skin as well. And that's where we started to recognize there was an ability to clean up those ingredient lists and replace some of those questionable ingredients with those that are really beneficial for your body and your skin, and really transform the experience from just sunscreen to overall skin protection. So that's the line that you see today and how we're moving forward as a brand.
So the issue and experience you've had with Lyme disease, is it around inflammation? Is that what started your sort of focus on trying to find a more clean and product for yourself?
Exactly. So my body reacted in a pretty traditional way in terms of Lyme disease. Incredible inflammation that not only affected my joints, but also my mind. A lot of brain fog, discomfort. And yes, so that's exactly what it was. And in my healing journey of both Eastern and Western medicine, it was really the help of botanicals to calm that inflammation, things like ashwagandha, turmeric, that helped, bring my body back down to a bit of a normal state. And the same is true with what you put on your skin as well.
And you were saying that, skincare products, sunscreen specifically, can build up in the bloodstream. Do you know how long that lasts in the bloodstream? I'm curious if it's something that stays around forever, if it can sort of dissipate after a few months, or what the story is there.
Yeah, so it does build up in the bloodstream, but many chemicals do, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Your body is able to process them and eliminate them. Specifically, though, with sunscreen, it tends to build up a little bit more, and the ingredients that are building up are known endocrine disruptors. And so in terms of how long it takes to flush that through, I'm truly not exactly sure, but the FDA is actually something that they're looking into as we speak. Recognizing that after doing blood tests and urine tests on people that have been using sunscreen according to the label, that those chemicals in particular were showing up at levels higher than what's generally recognized as safe by the FDA. So it's for that reason that it can cause some negative effects in some people. But of course, wearing sunscreen every day is important to protect against skin cancer. So from a brand perspective, we are definitely not finger pointing. Wear the sunscreen that you love and wear it every day. But for folks like myself that have a different health journey, or perhaps people with sensitive skin, the zinc oxide option is definitely better and safer.
I've used the more traditional zinc oxide before. It's a gnarly experience. It's like I used to surf a lot when I was in California, and I was using regular sunscreen. Yeah, I was using regular sunscreen, and it would wash off an hour in, and I would come out with just nasty burns. So I started using the zinc, and I had long hair at the time, and it would just like my hair would get stuck in it, and it'd be like glued to my face, and it was just got so gross. So how are you like balancing the effects of zinc and also minimizing that sort of experience I had?
It's a great question. I think the good news is in the past few years, there's been a lot of advancements in terms of zinc oxide quality and the way that it can be dispersed while still providing the expected protection. So just that alone is an incredible, new, opportunity within the skincare world. But I think what we're doing differently is that we're taking that really high level premium zinc, and we're also blending it with what I call plant defense. So it's 10 active botanicals that are known. They're in there for a reason. They're curated for a reason to help provide an even better skin feel and experience. So things like Tahitian monoi oil, raspberry extract, the ashwagandha that we talked about. So balancing out that 20% zinc with all these other amazing ingredients that help it rub in better, but also have proven benefits from a defense perspective is really what's making the products different. And I'm so happy to say they do rub in. Now, zinc is never going to be completely clear. By nature, it is a mineral, but we are getting really close, which is super exciting. And I think why the brand has had such quick success.
Well, I imagine just the fact that it sort of sits on the skin actually may be a little bit more beneficial to some degree as far as it creating a more comprehensive seal or way of protecting. Is that true?
So zinc oxide, it sits on the surface of your skin and the sun's rays reflect off of it, where a chemical sunscreen does absorb and absorbs the sunlight and reflects it back as heat. So physically, that's why they call zinc oxide a physical barrier. Because it does work best by sitting on top of the skin. And so because of that, that's why on occasion you will see a bit of a cast, or if you're underwater, maybe you see it on the surface of your skin where you don't in daylight. It's because it's there and it's protecting that outer layer.
So are you having to educate your customers on that side of, because I know that's not necessarily something they may be used to as far as when they put it on their skin. Is that something you have to focus on?
Absolutely. I think we actually, it's pretty exciting. So we have a really strong customer base that is very familiar with clean sunscreen and zinc oxide. They've made those changes in their day-to-day life, and they're used to using products that have a more natural skin feel. And so for those customers, they get it and they understand it. The exciting part for me is we're seeing this entire wave and a big wave of new customers that are coming in that are proactively looking for options, alternatives that are a bit safer for their health and for the environment. And it's for those customers that we do a lot of education around what a zinc sunscreen, how it operates differently, how it works differently, how there is a bit of a different education in terms of once you rub it on, give it about 20 or 30 seconds and it absolutely will melt in, but you do need to give it that 20 seconds of time, so little things like that help make the experience more enjoyable. And we're doing that on social media, through email marketing, blog posts. We even bring in experts from time to time to help share that message so that people do have an understanding that it operates very differently than a chemical sunscreen.
Are you using, paid search or any other types of, I guess inbound marketing to help capture the research side of the newer side of the customer who may not be as familiar and is looking for an alternative? Or I'm curious what your just strategies are to try and capture them.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, just this past week is the first time we've done anything proactive like that.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's actually very exciting. So we definitely had a very strong customer base to begin with. And then we, through a lot of word of mouth is how we've grown. And then in terms of, I think the FDA and their reanalysis of the sunscreen overall and the media reporting on that, I think people are proactively, like you mentioned, searching and looking. One way that we were doing that without paid search was just through credentialed partnerships. So the majority of our products are EWG verified. And that is a place that we find a lot of new customers that are proactively looking for clean products that not only say they're clean, but have that credentialed support to prove that through. And so those are the partnerships that have worked for us in our first year. But as we're growing, we're absolutely expanding that marketing mix to try to reach more people.
What is the EWG verified? I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, they're the Environmental Working Group.
Okay.
And they are an organization that helps bring to light questionable ingredients in products of all types of consumer products. So from food to skincare, across the board. And we are one of very few brands that has that EWG verified credential. And that's a special process that you must go through where every single ingredient is reviewed. Where it's sourced, how it's sourced, and its role in the function of the product. And so we're super proud that we took the time, we did that, and we have products that have that seal of approval.
You also have a Leaping Bunny cruelty-free certification. I haven't heard of Leaping Bunny either. Is that mainly around like vegan or animal testing, or what's that about?
So yeah, Leaping Bunny means we're entirely dedicated to cruelty-free. And so again, that goes from the ingredients that we source, the raw materials that go into our products through the finished product. So that's another process where they do look at that full kind of end-to-end experience. And we do not test on animals. And the ingredients we use are not tested on animals. And our manufacturer never tests on animals. So, which is different than vegan. Our products currently are all vegan as well. So we don't use any animal byproducts in our current line either. But the cruelty-free is specific to animal testing.
And while we're on the topic of certifications, I hear you are now a 1% for the Planet member. Congratulations.
Thank you. We are super excited about that. That's a big one. That's a big one for me personally.
It is. It's really exciting. Have you thought about yet what types of issues you want to support, or how you want to start making that 1% work for you, or I should say the world?
Yeah. So we are definitely working with their team to identify some places where we feel like our currently small brand can have the most impact. But I think from my perspective, there's a few places that it makes a lot of sense for us. Ocean health is definitely one. Our products are meant to be used out and about, enjoying life outdoors and in our oceans. And we know that from a coral reef perspective, there has been damage done from traditional sunscreens. And so that's a place that we definitely feel passionate about. Like the oceans have to be healthy for the world to be healthy. So that's something that definitely, hits close to home for me that I really feel strongly about. And then there's some other places that we're looking at as well in terms of responsible sourcing and things like that. So I think that partnership will probably evolve over time as we grow and our impact can be even bigger.
No, that's exciting. Just for people who have listened or who have businesses and haven't joined, what was that process like? Did you find it easy joining and getting looped into the program?
Absolutely. I mean, the team there is wonderful and responsive, and we're just at our very beginning stage in terms of what that looks like. But so far, in terms of, as I mentioned, helping us to really figure out not only what we can be doing better as a company, but also aligning us with other brands that are doing amazing things, and then other organizations that are having impact at a mass level, but also down to the local level as well. And so it was a fairly easy process, and a financial commitment on our end to be sure that, for me, it's important that if we say we're clean, we mean it. If we say we're concerned about environmental impact, that we mean it, and that means putting dollars and cents behind supporting that. And so that's just my perspective as a brand owner. But they've been great, partners so far. And I think for me, the beautiful thing is that, we always say it doesn't matter the size of the impact as long as you're making that effort. And so while we are a very small new brand right now, 1% for the Planet is aligning with brands like us. It doesn't just have to be the massive big brands. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Is that they're really celebrating brands that want to be doing better, and they're there in partnership to help make that happen. And from my perspective, it's the perfect time. I mean, we're a new brand. So if we can start off on the right foot and get great advice from experts in the field to do things better, then that's what we're going to be committed to do.
Well, I think that's a great point as far as building it in the beginning and starting out a business, thinking ahead and how these things can grow and sort of ripple through the business all the way from one, just having an opinion and a point of view on how things can be and taking a stance and doing it, but also just building into the other initiatives as far as like doing clean products and starting to think about ambassadors and other ways of getting the word out and ways to represent not only the business and 1% for the planet, but just the larger value system that is behind it and supporting it. How is the ambassador program? Are you starting to build that out? I spent some time on your site. It's a beautiful site. You've done a great job with the branding and just developing a tone of voice, a personality, a point of view. And I saw an opportunity for ambassadors to reach out. And I'm curious, is that a program that has been kicked off yet, or how are you sort of approaching that?
So it's definitely kicked off. We're doing that on a small level now, just in terms of inventory and product. But my goal there would be for that to grow tremendously, because we do see absolutely a lift when it comes to certain people that we're partnering with. And I think it's because we are very mindful of the ambassadors that we're working with. And we try to ensure that we have a very diverse representation. And in addition to that, we found that our community loves certain types of content. And so when we can find ambassadors that, speak in that same voice and offer those same pieces of education, it really does, I think, create a nice sense of community, and it's working very well for us. And some examples of that would be, we have yoga ambassadors, we have meditation, we do a lot with healthier eating choices. We have naturopathic doctors, we have regular dermatologists. So we really try to fill, all different types of informative, content, because I know for me, I've never owned a brand before. I don't come from the beauty industry, but the brands I connect to most are the ones that really, like you mentioned, have a point of view and what they stand for. And it's really providing really fun, informative content. And so yeah, that's what we're looking for as we build our tribe, is really authenticity.
Well, I love your story and how it's you're a first time entrepreneur, and this is your first business, and the story behind it. And I think the experience you had prior to this is really valuable, as far as your career in PR. How has that helped? Because just doing a quick Google search, you're everywhere. I was really impressed by the amount of press you've been getting, which I'm sure is not just your PR chops. It also is speaks to the brand and the value, and I think the need for or desire for the product right now.
Right.
But I would love to just hear how you've really helped channel some of those skills from your previous life into what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's honestly a great question, because the funny thing is that I didn't realize, I don't think until I started this business, how much of a great foundation my previous life really gave
Hmm.
me. I was in the PR world. I worked in CPG, with big brands, really big
Hmm.
brands, not in beauty, but on the CPG side for most of my career. When I had my first child, I left the agency life to
Hmm.
stay at home with him. But through that journey of having my first child all the way through my third, I always was a consultant, and I always
Hmm.
continued to work with previous colleagues and brands and keep my foot in the door, really this evolving, changing world that is PR.
Hmm.
And again, I never realized that was setting this foundation for me, that now that I have my own company, there are really amazing things that I think came from that experience that I can bring forward. And also things that I recognize that I prefer to do differently
Hmm.
as I build my own company. And so that experience really gave me that. And you're right. I do feel lucky that the PR background definitely has helped, for sure, in terms of understanding, how to reach out to an editor, things like that.
Exactly.
Perhaps if you come from a different industry and start your business, maybe that's a different learning experience. So I do have that benefit. But to
Hmm.
your point, I think the great thing is that we built the brand and these products to really have a different point of view, to look different, to feel different. And a lot of that is pulling through, because it's offering something that doesn't exist currently in
Hmm.
the sunscreen space. And I think because of that, we've had some quick trajectory, I'll
Hmm.
say, even during COVID, which was our first, full year in business. We were able to navigate that by just being who we were,
Yeah,
different.
and I think you've done a great job with it. And
Thank you.
again, going to your Instagram, I was really impressed with just how many followers we have already.
Oh, thanks.
I think pushing around 16,500, if I'm correct, which is fantastic for a
Yes,
business that's only a year old. I think
yeah,
part of it is you built a brand that is visually beautiful. It's got great color. The fonts are beautiful. The packaging is nice, but it also is the
yeah.
educational side that you're providing is around the content, which all roots itself in building brand and helping build a point of view and everything we've been talking about. And
Right.
I would love to hear how important you think starting off with that strong brand, or do you think it's something that you can evolve, just get it out and then evolve as you go, or do you think it's important to have all your eggs in a basket and ready to roll and launch on a really strong foot? I think there's a lot of people that have different philosophies or different approaches to that. So I'm
I
curious to
know.
what. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there. I think sometimes if you wait too
No,
long to be perfect, you'll never do it. Other
that's right.
times if you do it too early, and you don't have quite everything built out, it can hurt you. So I would just love to hear your thoughts there.
No, it's so true. And, I'm definitely the person that would wait forever to make it perfect. But
Hmm.
the truth is, there really is no right time. That's at least been my experience. I think progress over perfection is something that I've learned to
Hmm.
adopt.
Hmm.
And I think it's working for us. And you're right. I think there are certain things you do have to have very buttoned up and thought through before you bring a brand or a product to market. Because especially with, the social media aspect of it, people do recognize very quickly, and things can
Hmm.
take off very quickly. Or if you haven't thought things through, that can also steamroll a bit quicker because of the way that social media works. So for me, there were definitely aspects that needed to be buttoned up, that I really wanted to have a strong perspective and point of view, so that for anyone new to our brand, they would know very clearly what we stand for and how we're different. And I think that for me was the one thing that I did want to have right. But as we've grown, we've evolved a lot over the last year and a half. And I'm sure, we're always saying, we're always looking for ways to do things better. So the products that we have today will always continuously get better because why not? As technology allows and as better ingredients allow and better sourcing allows, we should always be trying to be a better version of ourselves. And so that's for sure. But I think the beauty of that community that we've grown is also the feedback portion. So we're able to test things and messages and learn things about our audience so that we can be serving up content that's meaningful. And also in terms of our product pipeline, we hear very clearly the things that people want, what they feel is missing, and that's the stuff we're working on. And I think that's the beauty of being an independent, nimble, small brand, is we can listen to that and make it happen, which is exciting.
It's really exciting. And you touched on a little bit about testing, and kind of going to step back a little bit. And talk through how you developed the product, right? So you've been around for about a year, but really your journey started years before that, just in product development, research, dealing with the chemistry, and building out the production side of the business. And I'm curious, that sounds really overwhelming and complicated to me, and I would not know where to start if I were in your shoes. So I'd love to hear how you found that and started figuring it out and testing and everything.
Right. That's the hardest part. It remains the hardest part and will always remain, I think, the hardest part is that sunscreen is one of the most difficult products within the skincare regimen to formulate for many, many reasons. Number one being that we have a lot of restrictions on what we will and won't use. That's a huge one. And then, as you mentioned, from a testing perspective, at the end of the day, here in the United States, this is an FDA regulated OTC product. So I was never making this in my kitchen. That was never my founder story because, quite frankly, that would not be the right way to bring a sunscreen to market. So when we talk about past lives, that's where I say, I did go out and I picked everybody's brain that I could, that I knew, until I found the right path forward, and working with an independent chemist who I still consult with today. I by no means am a chemist. I'm not a dermatologist. So the places where that expertise is involved is a place that I immediately built almost like a little panel of experts to help me navigate and find the right manufacturing partners. And we do own our formulas. We're not pulling things off the shelf that exist and just putting them in different packaging. So it did take us many years to come up with the formula that we have today. If I started today, it would probably take less time because the technology is there and better. And the other piece that shifted a lot since, I guess it was 2016 or 2017 when I first got into the lab, is that back then, this concept of cleaner or greener, sustainable, wasn't really a thing. And so finding a chemist and a manufacturer that would work through that, and you would tell them all the things that you didn't want, but those are all the things that make it easier to formulate, was an extremely difficult process. And it took us years to find the right manufacturing partners. So now indie brands are a thing. Now clean is a thing. And there are many ingredients on the market that are much better suited to solve some of those needs. So the path forward is probably not as bumpy as it was a few years ago.
Well, there's got to be a first somewhere, right? Someone has to be the first.
That's right. We got to get our bumps and bruises somewhere. So,
Some of the, I was reading through your ingredient list a bit. and I'm curious, and also just around the language on that the company and you are using around the products. And I know I'm going to butcher this. I've actually practiced before the show saying this word, but adaptogens, is that right?
Oh, you nailed it. That
I
was
got
perfect.
it. All right.
Adaptogens, yes.
What are they?
So adaptogens are botanicals that have this amazing ability to self-protect almost. That's like a great way of describing it. They can adapt in extreme conditions and environments. And they have protective, innately protective qualities about them. And those same qualities pull through in the world of supplements. So in the wellness community, you're hearing about these probably a lot now. And now in skincare, that's really, I think, a piece of the puzzle that we're bringing forward that is really truly different. We're using those ingredients from the wellness community in our sun care products. And nobody else is doing that at the current moment. And like I mentioned, things like ashwagandha, which is, in fact, in our product, that ingredient in particular has been clinically shown to protect against blue light, in addition to the amazing ability to calm inflammation and things that I take it for every day for my Lyme's, journey. So yeah, that is what we're putting those in our products, and we're doing it at clinically effective levels, so that you really, it's not just about the sun protection, but after you've used our products, you will notice that your skin does look and feel healthier. It feels softer. It's not that chalky kind of dry feeling that you may typically get after using a sunscreen or zinc sunscreen. So I think it's those things that we're building into the products that are making them do more than just protect against the sun.
And you mentioned blue light. I've always just thought blue light was just bad for your eyes, but it's bad for your skin too.
It is. It actually does penetrate the skin, and it does cause the dreaded inflammation.
Oh, great. I'm going to have to wear sunscreen now when I'm working on the computer.
I mean, absolutely. Well, luckily you know somebody, so I'll be happy to send you some.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And that's why, all of our products are definitely sun protection is a very important and critical piece of being a sun care company. But all of our products also always cover the full spectrum. So the UVA and UVB, of course, but also blue light and pollution, because we know in our modern world, it's more than just the sun that is affecting our skin. So,
and one thing I really thought was interesting, and I always have, as far as what products are sold in what countries, labor requirements between different continents, different countries. And you're following the EU guidelines for label transparency. So I would love to hear, I'm not an expert on what those different sort of guidelines are. I would love for you to hear or learn a little bit about what the differences are and how you're embracing those to sort of continue your brand differentiation and transparency of it.
Yeah. No, well, I'm glad you asked that, because we do get asked that a lot. Is it exactly what does that mean that you follow European guidelines? And for us, it means a few things. So first and foremost, Europe has banned over, I think it's up to 1,600 ingredients that their products you sold there are just, you're not allowed to use them at all, period. Canada also has very strict regulations in terms of what's allowed in the product, and we are compliant there as well. So from that perspective, we follow that. Europe always seems to be one step ahead in certain ways, and that being one of them. So if they're questionable, we just don't use them. And the other piece of that equation is that they do require that everything on your ingredient label, so that back of box where you see everything listed, it must be written and it must be included down to the 0.004%. So again, for us, that's a no-brainer, because that's transparency. That's the scent that's coming from one of our products has plant extracts. So you're seeing everything that makes up that down to the 0.004% because you have a right to know, right? It's being absorbed. You have a right to know. So for us, we believe in that. And so we follow that guideline. And if it's in our product, it's on that label. The other thing that Europe does differently than the United States, specific to sunscreen, is the way that it's tested to give you that SPF value. So in Europe, a third of that SPF number must be proven to cover against those damaging UVA rays. And so for our SPF 30, for example, 10, it is the number that you have to hit for UVA protection. And we exceed that. So again, it's about putting extra steps in place to ensure that our products are doing what they say and meaning it. And then we're also giving you confidence that you have all the information to trust in the product. So, yeah.
Well, so we're approaching time, and one of the things I like to do at the end of each episode is really ask for a little nugget of advice or something you can share with the community. But I think today I want to try a little bit different, something a little different, and see if there's advice you would have given your future self. And I would love to hear. I know I'm putting you on the spot, so we can edit this out if you don't know. It's okay.
Okay.
But I would love to hear if you 10 years ago, 20 years ago, before you started everything, or early in your PR career, even some sort of piece of advice that you would have given your future self of what to do, what not to do.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's a deep question, I know.
It's a deep question. Do you want to go there? No. Wait, is it personal advice or professional advice? No.
It could be either. It could be, honestly, sometimes they're one and the same, right?
At this point, I don't even know. The line is so blurry. I think, maybe from a personal perspective, would be, I know this sounds really simple and maybe a little cheesy, but for me, it's been really true, is take care of yourself. I think it's very easy. I graduated college and immediately moved to New York City and embarked on this wild, crazy, amazing career. But with that came a lot of hours, a lot of abuse to my body and my mind, and, all those things. And I think what the Limes was for me was a very abrupt wake-up call. And I think so that would definitely be something, to take care of yourself. And I struggle with that as a business owner, as a mom, as a wife, a friend. I think that balance is really hard. And when you don't prioritize yourself, and that's physically or even mentally, right? Things like meditation that maybe I was like, oh, I don't know about that, which is now really an important part of my day. It matters to your body. And when you're not healthy, you can't operate, the way that you need to. So I know that sounds really simple, but for me, that's been my ongoing message that I try to remind myself. And some days I nail it and some days not so much, but it's a work in progress.
Same. I'm in the same boat. I think the older I get, the more I realize how important it is. And I'll say, as someone who's lived in New York now almost 5 years, New York City isn't the easiest place to take care of yourself. You have everything available to you 24/7, the best food and alcohol you can imagine. So it's the work hard, play hard philosophy is very much alive. And I think very much a big part of New York City culture in a way. It can be hard to do here. I find myself struggling with it still, and just there's no life hack to living in New York. It's just a place that's kind of unforgiving in many ways, and then as you embark on the entrepreneurial side of your life, it becomes even more harder, because now not only are you a business owner and responsible for employees and responsible for your customers' health and well-being, but you have your family to take care of, yourself to take care of, and I think finding that balance it's really difficult, and I think it's important to be honest with that and just own it. And it's not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes.
That's right. No, you're right. And I mean, when we talk about sustainable, obviously, there's the eco side of that, but then there's also like the personal side of that, right?
100%.
And
Yeah.
what is actually sustainable to be productive, and I'm thrilled that through this journey I've learned about things even from our own Instagram community of things like meditation, mindfulness, self-care. Like I'm just happy those words are buzzing around because oh gosh, in my 20s, if I had known that, maybe I would have been, wouldn't have taken, hitting the ground so hard from a health perspective. But I'm just happy that those are becoming more mainstream or things that people are at least thinking about. But also knowing that it's not perfect, right? Like the Instagram version of that is not sometimes reality. And that's okay. It's okay that it's ugly sometimes. But yeah, I think from my perspective, that would be the advice is like not to be so hard on myself and to practice better self-care. So
I think that's great advice. So thank you for taking the time today and sharing your story. And I'm really excited to see how you grow, and you have just so much momentum right now. So I'm really excited to see what's in store for you in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and so forth.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. We're excited about where we are today, but I think we're excited about what we see in front of us. So it's a journey, and I'm just lucky to be on it.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks again.
Thank you all for listening in today's episode. Hope you found the conversation interesting and one that inspires you all to think about your own journey as we all navigate how to live a more sustainable lifestyle. And I just have one quick ask. Please head on over to the Apple Podcast app and leave a review. You can also email me, jay@weareunconquered.co. Thanks again. See you next week.